prime thing is you have to win.
Ill intent, violence, physicality, pain. Enough is enough.
All right, welcome back to the Just Win podcast. Seems like the Raiders is talk of town. Everybody's talking about the Raiders. That's Tashan Reed. That's Vic Tafur. I'm Ted Nguyen. And we're going to talk a little bit Devonte news, and we are going to preview the Broncos game today. We're back in the AFC West. It's rivalry week. But the Raiders are in the news for a little bit of a wrong reason. You don't want everybody talking about you because one of your best players wants out of town, but that's what's going on right now. You guys have any updates about the Davante Adams situation?
I think we're still kind of in a holding pattern. I think you mentioned, they're always in the news. One of the players yesterday said that we're definitely in the entertainment business. I thought that was funny how the Raiders are always, never dull. I think at this point, they're listening to teams offering, for Devonte. I think the Jets are clearly the favorite in this thing. The Saints are also been mentioned, but I don't know if the Raiders are in any kind of rush to get this done. And Devontae's hurt anyway. He's got the hamstring injury, so he wouldn't have played this week regardless. So I don't know what Tashan's feel is, but I think it might happen in the next 10 days or so.
Yeah, it seems like it's more likely that something goes down next week between Davante Adams needing to get healthy from that hamstring injury for a team to feel comfortable, but also the Raiders just taking stock of all their offers. I mean, a ton of teams have checked in. A lot of the focus has been on the Jets and the Saints because of Adams' connections to Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr, but a bunch of other teams have checked in as well. The Steelers, the Cowboys, the Bills and Chiefs are kind of hanging around. There's a couple other teams that have called as well. So, really no reason for the Raiders to be in a rush, particularly since there's an injury that needs to be sorted out and potentially contract language that needs to be sorted out if they need to maybe pay down some of Devontae's, base salary or trade him to another team. And so I'd be surprised if something materializes this week. Next week feels more likely. But we'll see. The Raiders they have quite the number of suitors, and so you figure they would come out with at least a solid return for Adams.
I want to talk about the option to pay down his salary. How small can the Raiders get Devonte Adams' cap number for another team?
So essentially the only thing that the team, because the Raiders have already paid out, via sign-in bonus and workout bonuses and other things, a good amount of his cap hit for this year. Right now, it's about $13.5 million of base salary that's left on his deal, which is what a team that trades for him would be responsible for. If the Raiders, it depends how much, I guess, cash they feel like putting towards it. But, if they wanted to, they could go all the way down to $1 million, I guess, if they really wanted the veterans minimum and convert it into a sign-in bonus. And the way that works is, it basically would free up some immediate cap space, but pay out the rest of his salary and trade him to a team. Let's say a team has $3 million in cap space and you pay Davante Adams' salary down to $1.5 million. And then the reason why they would do that is if that team is offering a more substantial package. Like if everybody else is offering a 3, but this one team is offering a 2 and they just can't make it happen cap-wise, and that's why you go ahead and do that. And so it really just depends how much cash owner Mark Davis feels like shelling out towards this. The Raiders have already allocated money towards for Adams' salary, of course, because you have to, but it's different because they typically only have to pay that week by week. Whereas to do this, they would have to pay that lump sum all at once, essentially. So it's just a matter of what Mark Davis wants to do, essentially.
I think the good comp is that it was 2022 when the Broncos had Von Miller, and they paid his number all the way down. So they got the second and third round pick from the Rams. So that's the ideal. I'm not sure you can get a second and third round pick, but I guess it depends how, salary cap strain the team is and what the Raiders are willing to do. But definitely there's a wide range of options and possibilities here based on that and based on how desperate teams are. If they think Devontae's the missing piece, I don't know if that's. The Jets, I think everyone says, because they have obviously, Devontae and Aaron Rodgers been talking for years now about getting back together. I think at this point, the Jets have pretty much done whatever Aaron Rodgers has said. He missed mini camp. doesn't hug the coach. I just think he's calling the shots. So I think if he wants Devonte, he'll probably get Devonte at some point. And that seems to be the everyone's assumption. But yeah, again, the Raiders are in no rush. They can take all offers, and maybe the thinking is the offers get better the longer you wait. I mean, if teams can get more desperate and think he's a bigger need than he is now. So yeah, and as the world turns.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely enough suitors to where you can kind of create kind of a bidding war, and I think the best case scenario is you get a second round pick out of this. And I think at first I thought maybe it was unlikely, but I think the option to pay down his salary opens up the possibility that he gets traded to a few more teams. Like if he gets traded to the Saints, the Raiders definitely need to get that figure down from 13 mil. I mean, they could probably free up some space too, but I think they only have like 2 million in cap space right now. And obviously you don't want to get in a situation where the Jets are the only option, and you kind of have to pay what they they kind of pay what they want. So you need to create some other realistic options for him. So also, yeah, the whole Jets thing with Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh is so funny. Like the whole hug thing on the sideline where he tried to go in for a hug and he got pushed away, and then you got Robert Saleh talking about maybe slowing down using so many hard counts, and then Rodgers going out and saying it's a bad idea in public. So that's a whole nother mess with the New York Jets, and maybe they get Davante Adams into the fold. But yeah, I mean, are there any other teams that you see as options besides the Jets and the Saints?
I think the Cowboys are a sleeper. I think the Cowboys, I think at some point, got to make a splash. They're definitely disappointing. I think they have a huge need at receiver. I know it might be weird with him and CD Lamb, who's number one, who's number two, but maybe they can both be 1As. But I think at some point, Jerry Jones has to realize he made a mistake in not getting Derrick Henry. I think they need a little bit. I don't think you can improve the defense at this point. So if you can get a playmaker in offense to make things better, because clearly they're kind of, he said before, they're all in. They paid Dak, they paid CD Lamb, so. I think if they don't make the playoffs, it'll be pretty bad. So I think if they think he can give them a jolt, they might be a surprise, kind of a strong player. And I think about the Saints, and James Jones, our old friend, now is in a show called the Locker Room or the Facility. I don't know what the show's called in Fox, but he had a good point yesterday where he said that obviously there's a Derek Carr connection with the Saints, but also Keith Williams, who's the receiver coach there, is one of Devontae's biggest mentors growing up, Fresno State, even back before that. So that's a guy he's very tight with. So I think that might be another, reason they make a strong push. You have two guys kind of advocating for him being a big, influence there and kind of get them over the hump. Because they're a team that could be 4-0. They're 2-2, but clearly they're in the mix.
I think the Steelers make sense. I mean, if they're 3-1, I think Justin Fields has been better than expected for most people. And, they've been in the mix for a few different big name receivers already this year. They were obviously one of the teams that were really pushing for Brandon Ayuk before he ended up staying with the 49ers. And so you figure they would get involved. The Bills, I think, are another team that makes sense. Josh Allen played really well this year and put up some big numbers, but their receiver core just doesn't really impress me all that much post-trading Stephon Diggs. And so if they could get a true number one in there with Josh Allen and the way the offense has been rolling, I think that could be another team that makes sense. It sounds like the Chiefs probably aren't going to get involved for multiple reasons. For one, they're one of those teams that don't really have any cap space. For two, the Raiders, I think that would just be a tough move to trade him in the division. So I think Steelers and Bills are probably my dark horses if we had to name some.
What was it, Chiefs? I guess now there's a hope that Rashee Rice is not out for the year. I guess you're waiting to see. Be a couple more days, I think, to find out. So if he's not out for the year, they are 4-0. They can probably wait and kind of, and go with the guys they have till he gets back. So there's not as big a need as there was. Maybe if they thought he was out for the year. But so I mean, again, I don't know why Mark Davis would sign off on trading him to the AFC West team, but that seems kind of dumb to me. But I guess it depends on the value of picks you get back. But yeah, there's a lot of teams I think, and I think that should be, see what happens.
Yeah, and I think the Raiders have come out and through sources have said they're going to take the best offer they can get, even if it's maybe doesn't fit exactly what Devonte Adams wants. But is that realistic when we are thinking about the contract situation and how the last 2 years of his contract has to be reworked? I mean, he can't just get traded to New England Patriots, and if he gets traded there, and he decides that he doesn't want to play there, I don't think they're gonna be too happy paying all that money that's owed to him in the next contract, even though it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has some leverage in the situation, particularly if it's a team that doesn't have the cap space to just trade for him straight up, and he has to, get his deal renegotiated. Like Adams has to agree to that, and so if the Raiders come to him and say we want to convert your salary and sign a bonus to trade just to the Patriots, I don't know. I think the Patriots have cap space, but let's say another team that he doesn't want to go to that doesn't have cap space, he can just be like, nah, I'm not going to do that, and then he couldn't do the deal, or a team would have to take a risk on him potentially being a 1-year rental because. Like his cap hit next year, I think it's like $36 million right now. In terms of base salary, it's not guaranteed, but if he's going to be on the roster, you have to pay him that, and that's a pretty sizable cap hit. I guess a team could carry that for him without renegotiating it or restructuring it, but most likely you would want to. And he could also say that he's not going to do that, and so I don't know if he would go either of those routes. I figure he probably would if they were going to just trade him to like a LO, just because it doesn't really align with what he's trying to do or the reason why he doesn't want to play with the Raiders anymore. So I do think he has a little bit of leverage in the situation. Like he doesn't have a no trade clause. He can't force his way somewhere in the same way that he did when he left the Packers, but he's not completely helpless either in the situation.
One more team I was going to mention was, Mike Silver at the SF Chronicle I wrote yesterday. He thought the Ayuk thing was still a possibility, which I thought it wasn't because clearly they already paid Brandon Ayuk, and if they move him now, I think it's an $18 million cap hit, so that'd be a lot of money. Plus, you still got to pay Davante going forward. But clearly, they're a team that's in a win now mode, and they have not shown a problem in the past, spending a lot of money. So they felt Davante. And it seems like Ayuk has not been happy. For some reason, he's not been really playing well or happy. He's not, he and Shanahan had a little thing last week, so maybe there's a little buyer's remorse there and he feels Davante's a better player and he'd be a great fit. So I think that's still a long shot, but I mean, Mike knows his stuff, and he said, he wrote yesterday, so maybe that's still in play somehow. But that would have been a great trade, back in camp. I think for both teams, there's the Ayuk Antonio Pierce connection from Arizona State, so they know him well. And you get a guy who could be, one of your best receivers for a while with a new contract. So, but again, it seems like a lot of money, but again, I'm not in the Niners books, so I don't really know how that could play out.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the time it would have been a good deal for both sides, just because the timeline makes a lot more sense for Ayuk to get paid a long-term contract with the Raiders, who are rebuilding, and Adams obviously gives them a big upgrade in a year that they're really going to go for it, because they're going to go up against some really big salary cap issues as soon as they have to pay Brock Purdy. But I mean, to me, I don't know. It seems like that time has passed. I don't know if they're. I read that Michael Silver column. I think he was kind of just like speculating and thinking this could be the best option, even though it's very unlikely. But I just don't see that happening. But regardless, we'll see what happens with Davante Adams.
We got some Antonio Pierce news. So people that don't know, he was at Arizona State before he's with the Raiders. He was basically the recruiting coordinator / defensive coordinator, and he had some penalties already from the NCAA for recruiting violations. They announced some additional violations today. So he has an 8-year show cause order. So he can't, if he's employed by NCAA school during that time, he'll be suspended from all athletic-related activities for his first season. And then he also, let's see, there's another part to this. Yeah. So basically, if he, is hired by a college in the next 8 years, then he has to serve a 1-year suspension. So it doesn't, in fact, impact him with the Raiders, but not exactly, another great headline for this week for them. So
yeah, not a strong week for Antonio Pierce. But I guess that maybe that lights a little bit more motivation under his
motivation.
because college is no longer an option. So you better make this NFL thing work out. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Devonte Adams situation. Vic gives it 10 days. So, for all the content aggregators out there, Vic Tafur reports that something is going to happen. I'm just kidding. Don't aggregate that. Do not aggregate that. That was just that was a guess. But yeah, so let's get into actual game stuff. Just rewatching all 22. From the Browns game. I think, a lot of my thoughts remain the same watching the live. Obviously, the offensive line blocked a lot better. Jackson Powers Johnson, I mean, this guy is physical. I mean, we knew that, but he is pretty much exactly what we thought he was going to be, a much more physical presence on the offensive line. I think the zero pressures allowed numbers a little misleading because he didn't have a lot of true one-on-one repetitions against defensive tackles, but when he did, he was pretty good. You have to get a little bit better with communication and passing off stunts and that sort of deal. DJ Glaze was very good in run blocking, not so great in pass blocking, but pretty encouraging, I think, if you're just looking at him as a developmental prospect. And also defensively, I got to shout out I got to make sure I say his name right. Pouamau?
Pouamau.
Yeah.
Pouamau.
Pouamau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pouamau.
Pouamau.
I have a little pause in there. Do a little pause and take a half breath.
Pouamau.
Pouamau. You got it. That's fine.
Pouamau.
Bingo.
But
That was it.
I got to get it because we're probably going to say his name a lot because he played phenomenal against the Browns. He was all over the place in the run game, in the pass. I mean, just a lot more range than Marcus Epps, obviously. I thought he was one of the better if not the best defender on the field for the Raiders. And I think we could all kind of see that he had that sort of potential in the short time he has played. But I think Marcus Epps was a leader back there, and I think he helped really solidify the secondary last season. So you kind of have to give him the respect. But now that I think the secondary has, kind of came together, it's time to pass the torch a little bit. And I think he just has so much more ability and so much. He's just a much more dynamic safety than Marcus Epps is, and I'd be excited to see how he continues to build on the game against the Browns. All right, let's get into the Broncos. The Denver Broncos, I think, very strong defensive team. Bo Nix is, he's developing. He's gotten a little bit better every week. But I think this is actually a very similar team to the Browns, where offensively they're a little bit challenged, but defensively they're very aggressive. They play a ton of man coverage like the Browns. The Broncos lead the league in blitz rate, so they're going to come after the quarterback.
It's surprising because there's really no big names in that defense. Obviously, I mean, up front at least. I know they have Surtain in the back, but I think that was kind of, people thought they'd be a pretty bad defense this year. Looking, that was projection going into this year, but definitely a lot of pressure. You mentioned the blitzes, a lot of stunts. Definitely set the edge well. Definitely, Antonio Pierce talked about it yesterday, but definitely a surprising, effective team. Vance Joseph's done a nice job, for them. And I don't know if it's for real. I guess it's for real. I mean, they're 4 games in, so I guess they kind of developed an identity, and they're kind of they're going to be a tough out, which they have to be because the offense definitely is still very challenged.
Yeah, well, I guess we could start with injuries first before we get into the game preview, because the Raiders do have a lot of injuries they're dealing with right now. Max Crosby still nursing a high ankle sprain. He didn't practice Wednesday. We'll see if he gets out there Thursday. Linebacker Davante Diablo was also out. Right tackle Thayer Munford was out. Devonte Adams, of course, is out. Dylan Parham didn't practice Wednesday due to his Achilles injury. Colton Miller didn't practice Wednesday, but he was in there lifting weights with Vic. Camion Richardson didn't practice Wednesday. Michael Mayer is still out due to personal reasons. Kanai Moaga is out right now, and also Tyreek McAllister is also out currently. We'll see if they're able to get some of those players back by the end of the week, but That's a pretty long list. And then on top of that, I mean, Zamir White got hurt during practice yesterday with a groin injury. Linebacker Luke Masterson got hurt yesterday with a knee injury. Get some good news. Safety Trey Taylor is back from injury reserve with a knee injury, but that's a lot of injuries for the Raiders this week, in addition to everything else that's going on surrounding the team. So chances are they're not going to get all those guys back, so they're probably going to be shorthanded once again going to Denver.
Man, they must practice hard. It's like the third time a player has been hurt during practice.
We don't have any details about what happened yesterday at practice, but definitely was a weird mood in the locker room. It wasn't really about Devonte. I think there was definitely, I don't know if it's Samir or Masterson, but someone seems like they may be hurt pretty bad. Definitely was, people were talking about how injury at practice. And I think with Zamir, Pierce talked about it Monday, where they're pretty much going to give Madison more carries anyway. If there's a little changing of the guard at running back, so maybe the split would have gone the other way, but where Madison gets more carries. But now maybe he's your full-time kind of bell cow in a way, and maybe Abdullah helps out on third down. But I think we'll see a lot of Madison's against the Broncos on Sunday.
Are we going to see the Labe?
Dylan Labe?
Yeah, we're going to see him come in anytime soon. I know fans have been kind of pining for that.
I'm not sure. I think that was probably the reporter's fault at training camp. They kind of built up some false hype. But he's a nice kid, but I don't think he's an impact guy this year. So I think if we see him, maybe more on teams, but I don't think he'll be making an impact. But yeah, he might be active. I mean, if you need another running back. But yeah, I think the next McCaffrey maybe have to wait a while.
All right. Also, I want to know what workout did you do with Colton Miller? How was that? And
He's got some reps in there. He was in the weight room. I was back to watching practice, so I just knocked off some sets. It was good.
Nice. I mean, was he lifting a lot more than you?
A little bit, yeah. Obviously, we're joking.
Okay, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
I was hanging out in the shade with the big fan, and he was in there actually working out. So we were both in the weight room, but we're doing different things. So,
gotcha. You're not a leg day guy. He was working out the legs a little bit.
No, what he was doing. He's actually doing some arm stuff, but maybe it's just, he's obviously coming off injury. Maybe he took Wednesday off from practice just to do some weightlifting. So these guys are veterans who are team captain types. They're kind of at their own pace. Like Max, he can miss all practice this week and still play on Sunday. So it's the kind of the cloud you give those guys. They know their bodies best, and the teams trust them. So I know Max will make an effort to play, and Colin's also coming, doing his own thing. So, but yeah. So I think, and then we mentioned on the show last week, Colin's getting better. Colin definitely has come on the last few weeks where he was kind of a negative, and he wasn't playing very well. And but now I think you see him kind of going back to his old form.
Yeah, as he gets better, and once he gets back to his normal self, that left side is gonna be fun to watch with between a combination of Miller and Powers Johnson. So on a Denver Broncos side, any key injuries to note?
Just running back Tyler Batty, he had a back injury he suffered last week that he got stretchered off, so he didn't practice Wednesday. Outside of that, safety JL Skinner, it was limited on Wednesday, so that's the only other injury they have so far.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the game. As we mentioned, this Denver Broncos pass rush is one of the best in the league. And it's not like they have any huge names up front. I think Jonathan Cooper is their best pass rusher. Most people won't know who he is. Zach Allen is also another name to watch for, and he kind of rushes from the inside and moves around the defensive line. But this team, they're also number one in ESPN's pass rush win rate. So they win a lot under 2.5 seconds. They create a lot of pressure. And part of it is Vance Joseph blitzes a lot. And he's not blitzing just to try to overload you. He's blitzing so he gets all his guys one-on-one rushes. He's bringing 5 a lot. So all his guys are one-on-one with your offensive linemen. And that's how they typically are getting these pressure numbers. And they're going to play man coverage, and they're going to play a lot of bump and run and just try to get you to hold the ball for an extra second. And as we know, that's been kind of Gardner Minshew's bugaboo is kind of holding on to the ball and creating his own pressure. So that's something that he can't do in this game. He's going to have to just trust his receivers and try to get the ball downfield. the Broncos also lead the league in man coverage rate. So um, obviously, this would have been a great game for Devonte Adams, and he probably would have been matched up against Patrick Surtain a lot, who some people believe to be the best corner in the NFL right now. Across from Patrick Surtain is Riley Moss, who's also playing at a very high level too. So this is they're going to play a lot of one-on-one coverage. They're not going to double team your receivers a lot. So this could be an opportunity for Trey Tucker, to use his speed and get downfield. I think the one thing with Surtain that you can get him on is long speed, but you have to be able to get off that bump and run coverage. So it's going to be up to Luke Getsy to kind of get him off of press coverage, either through motion, formation, whatever it is. But you could get downfield. You're gonna have to block these guys up, and you're gonna have to get past that initial bump and run coverage.
My guess is that Surtain will probably follow Jacoby Myers around. I would think that'd be the way to do. And Myers had a nice week last week, and tough matchup for him, clearly. I mean, I think Devontae's gotten the better of Surtain in the past, but he mentioned that's two of the top guys in the league. And it might be a long day for Jacoby, but we'll see. I think, like you said, Tucker will be a big factor. He has to be. I think Brock Bowers, I think the Broncos have shown they're a little weak in the middle of the field, so maybe your tight ends involved. I mean, Harrison Bryant, he's a solid player. He could have some catches on third down and replacing Michael Mayer. But I think the tight ends have to be a focus this week, and Trey Tucker as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that I'm watching when the Raiders have the ball is just are they do they get more aggressive in the pass game? I think not having Devonte and going against the Broncos defense, which has been really good. I don't think them playing as tight as they were against the Browns in the second half, mostly in that fourth quarter. I don't think that's going to get it done. Maybe they're able to have success running the ball again like they did last week, but even then, I think they're going to have to, ratchet it up a little bit in the pass game. So I think it's mostly saying how Luke Getsy approaches things now that, at least from what we expect, Davante Adams isn't going to be back into the fold and they have to sort of reconstruct their offense.
Yeah, I think ideally this is a Brock Bowers game. Whenever you play a great man coverage team with two strong corners, you have to be able to take advantage of those inside matchups. And they didn't do a great job of getting Bowers the ball last week. But I think this week, I think Bowers needs to have a big game for this offense to really have hope of moving the ball. I think he needs to be to get 80 yards or above for this offense to truly be successful. I don't see them moving the ball as successfully as they did against the Browns, against this Broncos front. I think I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were early in the season. I think the run game has taken some strides. But to me, I think Brock Bowers has to be a focal point in this game. And also, passing to your running backs is a good option against teams like this. Alexander Madison's supposed to be a pretty good receiving back. We haven't seen him get used a lot in that aspect, but this could be a game where you do target your back a few more times than usual.
I was looking at one of the details in the Antonio Pierce thing was one of the violations was he took players, recruits to strip clubs. That's a violation? I know it's a violation. Anyway, but sorry. Just distracted looking at the Antonio Pierce news. But yeah, I think, you said Luke Getsy's kind of on the spot. I think he's always been all year long. Fans have kind of been lukewarm at best about him. I think now with Devonte out, and we saw last week, he got a little more matches with the jet sweeps and got the running game going. So I think, it's his time to show what he can do. I think they need more out of Gardner Minshew. He has not played that well. I mean, he's a nice percentage of completing passes, but holding the ball too long, missing some receivers, and maybe Luke Getsy can help him with that and get him going this weekend against a good Broncos defense.
Yeah, and when the Raiders on defense, what are you guys watching for?
Well, is Max playing? If Max is playing, which I think you have to believe he will. I mean, he's only missed last week was the first game he's missed his whole career, and I think he knows that the team's chances of winning improve a lot if he's on the field. So I think just watching him how he does, how he comes back from the high ankle sprain, if he's able to move around a little better. When he played 2 weeks ago, he wasn't very effective, and I think that probably was a big reason why he sat out last week. So he's a big difference maker. So I think get him going, and that'll help the rest of the front line kind of because you got to attack Bo Nix. Bo Nix makes a lot of mistakes, and he's not really a threat down the field as far as hurting it deep. So got to watch the short stuff and get some pressure on him, and hopefully he turns the ball over.
Yeah, I think I'm looking for the defensive line to finally have one of those dominant games. Yeah, I mean the Broncos, while they're 2-2 and they're coming off winning back-to-back games, they still can't really run the ball, and they've had some pass protection issues, and I'm sure part of that is, Bo Nix not mitigating pressure as well, being a rookie quarterback. But I mean, you know, especially if Max is able to come back, or even if he isn't really, I think the defensive line is really what I'm watching in this game. They've had a bunch of injuries, and so it's understandable why they haven't been the unit we expected, but I think that's going to be the key in this one, because even though Nix hasn't played well, I mean, any quarterback, if you give them all day to sit back there and throw, they're going to cause some issues. And I still think Courtland Sutton's a pretty good receiver. And so I think that's the main thing to watch when the Raiders are on defense.
Yeah, Max Crosby I thought he's always played well against the Broncos offensive line. So it'd be huge if he could play. I thought Christian Wilkins played an amazing game last week, even though I don't think did he have a sack last week?
Half a sack, yeah.
Half a sack, but I don't think that reflects the true impact he had on the game. So he needs to continue to be dominant, because even if Crosby's playing, obviously he's not going to be 100%. Adam Butler had a really good game against the Browns as well. And we talked about Tyree Wilson, who's really gotten progressively better and had a really good game against the Browns too. So all those guys need to step up and just continue to pressure Bo Nix, because he's prone to mistakes and he's not great with pocket management. And I think Jacory Bennett is a pretty good matchup for a guy like Courtland Sutton. Obviously, the Raiders don't really travel the corners much. So, yeah, we'll see. But if you're doing ISO routes, like if you're throwing a fade or a slant, Jacory Bennett's been really good on those type of routes. And those are the kind of routes that Courtland Sutton does run. So I think defensively, they have some good matchups. I would be very surprised if this wasn't a very low scoring game. All right, so let's get into our matchups that you guys are watching for. What matchups are you guys watching for?
Pastor Tane versus Jacoby Myers. I think with Jacoby stepping up as in the Raiders' #1 receiver now, and he did the same thing last week. I would imagine that he's going to draw a lot of attention from Surtain, who usually doesn't ask for too much help. And so I think if Myers can win that matchup more than people expect, that could help open things up for the Raiders offense. Myers, he's been a #1 receiver before in his career. That's basically what he was with the Patriots for a couple of years before he, signed with the Raiders. And so it's not necessarily a new role for him, but just seeing how he handles this week against one of the best corners in the league.
Yeah, I'll say I'll go with the offense. I think Gardner Minshew against Vance Joseph and against the linebackers on the defense is kind of reading what's available, making plays. Not don't turn the ball over. And I think you mentioned Brock Bowers has a big player. Madison out of the backfield, it could be a weapon. So I think ideally you want to take some chances deep, but you got to make some plays in the middle of the field to kind of soften the defense up. So I think that'll be my big focus on Gardner playing a little better. I think he has to elevate his game a little bit now with Davante gone, and we'll see if he can do that.
To me, I'm going to watch Brock Bowers against the Broncos inside linebackers. Justin Sternad, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Cody Barton, who, to me, Cody Barton's always kind of struggled in coverage. So if you could get that Bowers matched up on those linebackers, I think you could create a few explosive plays. All right, let's get into X factors. Who are you guys' X factors?
I'm gonna go with Tommy Eichenberg. I think if Masterson is out, which and Diablo's still out, then I think that will be a time for the rookie. Pierce talked about him a lot this training camp. A guy he thought had a lot of promise. He hadn't shown much yet. Having a lot of big chances. Played a little bit last week, but I hope might play the whole game if due to injury. So he's a guy who I love his instincts. I love his toughness and his tackling ability. So he's a guy. The Broncos are gonna try to run the ball. Javonte Williams had a big week last week, so I think he's kind of back on the right track. So you need some help with to Spillane in the middle of the field. So Eichenberg will be tested this week, and we'll see who's up for the challenge.
Probably Brock Bowers, I would say. I know that we saw him already sort of have his breakout game against the Ravens, but that was alongside Devonte Adams. I think this is kind of a big test for him to show that he can be a guy that's a go-to option in the passing game, especially if Myers is drawing a lot of the attention for Surtain. While the Broncos collectively have played well on defense, I'm not sure they really have a great matchup for Brock Bowers. And so looking for him to have a big game in this one. I think he could be an X factor that really gets the Raiders offense going.
Yeah. So to me, I think Bowers is the guy that has to be heavily involved in the game plan. But I think the X factor for me would be Trey Tucker. I think he needs to have one or two big catches. To me, this is going to be a very close defensive game. But I think if Tucker could hit one or two big plays and maybe even a big touchdown, that could change the outcome of this game. All right, so let's get into everybody's favorite portion of this podcast, our predictions. Let's start with you, Vic, who's unselfishly broke the curse last week.
Well, hopefully I'm not starting a pattern here, but I'm going to pick the Raiders to win. I'm not a Bo Nix guy. I think Gardner Minshew's a better quarterback right now. I think it might be forever. So I think there's a big edge there. I think the Raiders defense, you talked about the D-line, can get some pressure on Bo Nix, make some mistakes. There's not a lot of weapons on that offense. For the Broncos, I think the Raiders still may have the better offense even without Davante. So I think it will be, like you said, sort of lower scoring game. But I got the Raiders winning, I'm going to say 24-14.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Broncos. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think I have the Broncos winning 20-17. I don't think it's going to be a ton of offense in this one. I do think it's going to be a tough sledding for the Raiders' offense against this Broncos defense. I do think they're legit, and we just saw them hold the Jets in check last week, and I think we would probably say that the Jets have more firepower on offense than the Raiders at this point without Davante Adams, and so I think also just the number of injuries that they have elsewhere on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. I think they're going to be short-handed this week. Even if Max Crosby comes back, I don't think all those guys are going to make it back. And I do think there's something to being a little bit deflating. Having this Devonte Adams situation emerge, coming off a win like at home, that should have been like a sort of a rallying moment moving forward, and that pretty much immediately zapped all of the good vibes out of it. So. I do think there's going to be a down week for them on the road, and then they're going to take a loss.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a close game, close defensive game. And just with everything going on with the Raiders in the locker room and just playing on the road, I'm going to give the edge to the Broncos. I'm going to say 17-16. I'm going to keep it super close. 17-16 Broncos. Again, I think this game could go either way, and whoever makes a big play on offense, I think probably will swing this game. All right, so we have time for a couple of questions, and then we'll move on. So, Led Tier asks Adams' compensation prediction and team he goes to.
I think the Jets are desperate enough to where I think Aaron Rodgers might burn the building down if they let somebody else get Davante Adams. So I think they're going to up it to a second-round pick and get it done.
I agree. I'll say they don't get second. I'll say probably third and maybe another pick in the AF, maybe a future fourth. I don't know, but I'll say not quite a second-round pick. But they'll get a decent package for really having no real leverage. They got to make a move at some point. So I think they'll wait a while, but I think a third and something else.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be the Jets. I agree with Tashan. I think they're going to create there's enough interest to where they could probably get a second round pick for him. So I think most people would agree it's probably going to be the Jets. All right, next question from Raider Rob. Are you sensing any distraction in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby Myers said it yesterday. He said it is a distraction. I think Vic asked him that, or somebody did in that press scrum. But, I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore. His second best player on your team asked for a trade, and, you have this weird social media stuff going on and whatnot. Like, in this day and age, guys would be lying if they say that they're blocking out all the noise. So it is a distraction. I don't think it's something that necessarily is going to stop guys from going out there and performing. I know the trade request hasn't come out yet, but even last week without Davante Adams on the field, they were able to go get a win. So, I think like guys like Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers view it as more of a challenge for them to step up than, waddling around the locker room being sad. But I do think it's something that hurts team morale a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it was a distraction yesterday, but I think they'll fade pretty quickly. I think I think yeah, it's football. I mean, I think the whole next man up thing is actually kind of true. Players look at it that way. Like, we have guys here who are still getting paid and they're good players. So when the guys want their chances, so I mean, I know Myers would be a chance for him to kind of be the number one guy, which he's always kind of wanted to do. So I think at some point you're sad you lose a guy's very talented, but yeah, I think this team has some belief in itself back at training camp. They still do. So we'll see if they can rally around each other and kind of and fill that void.
And also, you have this whole Antonio Pierce thing that could be a distraction too. Yeah, I think they're going to be focused, but obviously, it's not ideal to be having to deal with this coming into the game. And who knows what some players feel about what Antonio Pierce did on social media or how he's handled this situation. So, just not great vibes all around. All right, last question we'll take from BCZ24. How bad would it have to get for Mark and Tom to pull the plug during the season? And by pull the plug,
Antonio Pierce.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't get any sense that he's in any real trouble. I think obviously it's early, but I think I think Antonio's even said like at one point like, I'm gonna do it my way and we'll go full out for 2 years and we'll see what happens. So I still think he's got past this season.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, things can change quickly. Like if the wheels just fall off of this thing entirely, and they go on a 10-game losing streak, maybe we can revisit this. But I do think it's been a rough first year compared to last year, his interim stint. The whole thing was reinvigorating the locker room and the camaraderie and things of that nature. And it seems like things fractured between him and Davante Adams, and that seems to contributed to Davante asking out as quickly as he did. There's been off the field stuff. Again, I know that NFL teams and fans probably don't really care that much about NCAA, violations, but the stuff is still not the things that you want to see out there. It doesn't make the the franchise decision look all that good. And so I think that the key is going to be, more so than the Raiders' record this year, because they wanted to compete, but realistically, I just don't think they were expecting to be like a contender really this year. I think it's going to be more about, can he maintain that faith of the locker room and the guys really going to bat for him. I think if he loses that and things start to turn, then maybe we could, have a discussion. But I think things will have to get pretty bad for it to reach that point.
I think also the key thing is he has to be drama free. In the last 2 weeks, he's kind of created a lot of this drama, a lot of the problems they were having with the comments after Carolina, and then the liking the Instagram post where that was about. So I think obviously winning is your focus and keeping the team together, but also let's avoid any more incidents. Let's not cause any more people to look at this team in a less flattering way because of you. So I think he has to really kind of tone it down and kind of watch what he says and kind of try to get through this year without any more drama.
So, I mean, this whole thing has always been kind of a 2-year deal, but I mean, if you had to put a number on it, what do you think? Does he get through that second year?
I
don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, do they get a quarterback? Obviously, the quarterback changes everything. If they draft a quarterback next year, it kind of gives you a new timeline as a coach, as a GM. So I'd imagine that's the goal, is to get a quarterback in the draft next year and kind of, what you should have done and you weren't able to do this past year. And that resets the whole clock. So it gives you a whole new foundation, a whole new energy, a whole new timeline. So it's hard to say what could happen next year, not knowing what they're going to do at quarterback and what they get back for Devonte and all that stuff. So I mean, I get where fans want to look at the big picture, but they're 2-2. We'll see what they get for Devonte, and we'll take it kind of week by week.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. These guys need to get to the locker room and get more of a sense about the vibes of this Raiders team right now. But make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe wherever you guys get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us, and we will go live after the Raiders play the Denver Broncos. So make sure you catch us then. Later, guys.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Hasta la vista.